have a question for you ladies. When was the last time that you did something that you used to do when you were a child? Something that you loved to do, something that you were known for doing, something that you were gifted to do when you were younger. When's the last time you actually stepped away and took time to do that before you became an educator or a student or a mother or an employee or an entrepreneur? What are the things that you used to love doing as a child? For me, that was always a defender. If you go to my website, I'm an attorney. I describe myself as a David versus Goliath because I've always been the underdog in life, and I've always stood up against systems or people that were technically bigger than me, but I never felt that would stop me from being victorious. So growing up as a child, I always go back to the beginning. Jeremiah 29:11, that's my life verse. I always start out with that verse, which says, "For I know the plans I have for you, says the Lord, plans to prosper you and not to harm you, plans for hope and a future." Photo that I'm carrying, I actually got it probably sometime last year from my mother, who kept a sonogram of me when I was in her womb. This was about 4 months, taken 4 months before I was born. January 31st of 1986. I was born April 20th of 1986. I kept this. I couldn't believe that she kept it. And I always go back to the verse that says in Jeremiah, "I knew you before you were in your mother's womb." So before we get the titles, before we become the beautiful women that stand before you today, he had a purpose for us before we were even in this womb. And as you know, a sonogram is one of the first pictures for anybody on earth to see you, to see what God placed into that mother. This is the first picture that anyone in the world will see, but God says he knew you before you were known in the world, before you became who you are today. So that's why I like to go back to the beginning so that you can remember what God placed in you, those gifts that are dormant, those gifts that you put down because the world told you it was too much, or no, that's not going to work, or no, that won't be successful. Go back to the beginning because that's when God was speaking to you the most. That's when he had you all to himself before you became a wife. And you know how busy we are as women. I tell people often, I feel like we literally have the weight of the world on our shoulders because we do so much. We're so multi-talented. We can multitask. The visionary was getting ready, putting on this beautiful event, carrying a baby on her back. She still had to be a mother. She still had to do things for herself before she could come out here and be the amazing visionary that she is. So we don't get to put down our roles, our titles. We have to carry that with us. And I just believe that the strength that you see before you now was already in you before you were in your mother's womb. Going back to my childhood, when I started thinking, what have I forgotten? Because my mom tells me, like, you used to be fearless. Now I'm like, I'm really nervous about things. I think twice before I do things. But she was recently telling me in a conversation that I was fearless as a child. Nothing scared me. And as I started going back, the first thing I did was I started interviewing people who grew up with me in like the 4th grade. My mom's ex-husband who saw me grow up, he was in the home with me. I started emailing and calling them, hey, what did you see in me? What was I like as a child? All of them said the same thing. Once you set a goal, it was going to get done. You were going to accomplish it. You were always defending other people that were, to the world, weak. You were always taking up for other people and defending them, which is, fast forward to what I do today, I'm a defender of justice. I defend clients against companies, major companies. As a child, I saw domestic violence in a lot of homes, including my own. I was the one at 5 years old literally attacking the man that was attacking my mother. I was attacking him because you weren't going to harm somebody that I loved. My cousins come up to me and say, do you remember when such and such was bullying me and you came outside? I've always been the one to defend those who were weaker. I was always the one that was the underdog. What else was I like as a child? I would go into a room. I had bunk beds, massive, heavy, huge bunk beds in my room. One day my mom came home. The bunk beds that was on the left side of the wall were now on the right side. How did I get that down by myself at 7, 8 years old? I can't even tell you how I did it. All I know is I separated those two bunk beds. I slid them across the room and I put them on the other side, stacked them on top of each other. And when she came home, she thought some movers had moved the bed, but it was just me. I've always been a visionary. Once I see something, I'm going to figure out a way to get it done. That is the strength that was placed in me before I was in my mother's womb. So I want you women to take some time, ask people, ask your mom, ask your grandparents, whoever that knew you when you were little, what was I like as a child? Because I believe that because of the world and the way that it's set up to overwhelm us and to wear us out and to exhaust us, we forget where we came from, and not just from our parents, which of course our beautiful mothers, our family, our history is wonderful, but where we came from in God, where He had us in heaven before He put us in a womb. He already had a plan for all the days of our lives. He already knew how it would end. He already knew how you would get from point A to point B. He already knew what businesses you would take, what people you would interact with, what people you would meet at an event like this. He already had it before you were in your mother's womb. I am preaching that today to say, as far as my own testimony, that you have to go back to the beginning. You need to go back and remember, what are the things that I used to love doing that I have put down, and I know that God is calling me higher. I know that this was always the plan for Him that He had for me in my own life. Being a defender has led me to be a defender as an attorney. Being strong and going against people who were bigger than me has led me to do the things that I've done in my business as well. Not just my business, but in raising 4 children. Let's talk about infertility. I have always been a patient one as a child. That seed that He planted in me to be patient will lead me to weather 12 years of infertility. I had my daughter in 2011. There was no reason we were fertile. I went from 2011 to 2023 not getting pregnant one time. 12 years of infertility, 12 years of praying for something that I know God placed in my heart, that I know He showed me the vision. He kept telling me, you will have twins. Because I remember the day, I remember where I was at. I said out loud, I want to have twins. Didn't know I would have to go through everything that I went through, but He kept showing me every single day signs, miracles, and wonders. I would be driving and see a license plate that said twin mom. Or I would be in a grocery store and somebody would come up to me and say, oh, do you see my twins? Like, it would be no reason for anybody to talk to me about twins, but yet I would see something about twins or being a twin mother every single day during that journey. That patience that He put in me as a child is what helped me weather, with prayer, with leaning on others in my circle, the 12 years of infertility until I saw that promise come to pass. What else has He placed in us? To not let Him rest until He fulfills the promises that He has given us before we were in our mother's womb. Like, we go after people who owe us money. We go after things that we've lost. That's how you need to go after our Father, because He is a good Father. He knows He has promised things to us that have not yet come to pass. Everyone in here is probably waiting on something, and I want you to remember to keep going to Him. Keep saying, Abba, Father, you promised me this. I'm not seeing it. It's not on earth as it is in heaven. Just trusting and surrendering the timeline, because that's another thing that I learned during that infertility journey, was to trust Him with the timeline. If I would have gotten those twins back when I wanted them, I would be in a mental institution today. I would not have survived it. So He knew what He was doing, so we have to trust Him to know, again, that He knows the plans He has for us, and they are good and to prosper us. Another thing that He instilled in me as a child, so you see I keep going back to how I was as a child, is just raw grit. I'm not giving up. So going back to my law school days, I got pregnant with my first child 2011. I was in my last year of law school. I was supposed to be studying for the bar. At that time, when it was time to take the test, I had an 8-month-old baby. So that means everybody that was in my law school class, they were at the library from sun up to sundown. So I didn't get to study like them. I have had friends that went to law school with me come up after and tell me, we did not think you were going to pass that test on the first time because you had that 8-month-old baby. But yet, I'm standing here before you as an attorney, passing it on the first time. So I'm here to remind you, I'm here to testify to you about my story, that no matter what the world thinks are odds against you, whether you're holding a baby and you have other things to do, whether anything has come up against you, the obstacles will never stop what God has placed within you before you were in your mother's womb. No enemy, no devil, nobody, nothing can stop God, because who has ever stopped a plan of God? Who can ever say, oh yeah, God meant for you to get this, but I stopped? No devil in hell can tell you that they came up against God and won. God also can never lie. So if he's giving you a promise and he tells you that his plans for you and us are good and to prosper you, that's exactly what he means. So if it's not lining up, you need to go back to him and say, Lord, again, this is not on earth as it is in heaven. You promised me this. I'm still waiting on this. I will wait for you. But let me get to the waiting. Last week, I was with my daughter in the morning. We were getting ready for school. All the kids were getting ready. Her school starts first, so she's normally the first out the door. She had gotten her hair done. She had done everything that she normally does in the morning. She packed up her backpack. So I saw her hovering in the kitchen, like huffing and puffing, rushing me because I'm washing dishes, just doing things that I do in the morning. She comes over and says, I'm ready. I'm waiting on you. And I calmly looked at her and said, actually, I'm waiting on you. I'll know you're ready when you're seated in that car. Why is being seated in the car letting me know you're ready? Because that means you are fully prepared for where you want me to take you, which is your destination. So let me talk to you about not being ready. If you're telling God today, Lord, I'm waiting on you, can you go back and actually see that you are prepared, that you have prepared and done what he's asked you to do? And when he sees that you are seated and ready, then he will stop what he is doing and come and carry you to the destination that he's been waiting on you to carry you to. So I just wanted to encourage you ladies with my testimony. Remember, the assignment for tonight is to go back and remember what you used to do as a child and start doing that, because that's where your calling and destiny is. Thank you.
Amen. Mrs. Evil, ladies.